I think one of the earlier panel discussion, the moderator, she spoke about the extra pressure that you develop after saying so many things about panelists. So we'll try to do a justice. First of all, it's my privilege to have such a wonderful panelist with me, and I'm not saying for the sake of saying. I'll tell you the reason for this. So on left, I have Jaideep. He's an IITian from Bombay, and now working in Himalayan area, trying to provide solar rooftop. So a very dynamic personality in himself and the wonderful work that he does, which he'll introduce to you. On right side, I have Mr. Raj. He was the biggest biggest tree cutter. He has handled the yellow pages. We all have used the oldies like me will understand and appreciate. There was something called as yellow page. And from yellow page, he has migrated to a vision of 1 billion trees. So that's Raj on right side. And again on left side, I have Charu, who is representing Dholakia Foundation. And I'm sure all of you will recall the passionate version of Dholakia work when Mr. Dholakia was speaking yesterday. So she will try to build on the work that Dholakia Foundation is doing on nature and especially the water part. Again, I'll come back to Sujna, my extreme right, and you must have seen the clapping that her team members did when she was here. Okay, that was Raj, okay. So Sujna has done some wonderful work in her organization under the mango tree, and especially the livelihood aspect of the nature. I think she has worked on that area. Her organization has worked on the area, so she will be bringing that perspective. Today, as a group, we are trying to go a little deeper on harnessing nature-based solution for sustainable development. I think we all have been listening to climate change, but it has reached us now. So we really don't have an escape now. It has come to us. So it's very important that we really look for solution which can be by business, the way Jaideep is looking, or it can be a community approach which Sujna is doing, or a CSR initiative like we are doing at UPL through our Vasudha initiative, or multiple thought process, multiple ways to implement that. So on that note, I'll take your permission to start this discussion, and starting has to be from you, Raj. You have been the biggest tree cutter, and now you have turned your attention to 1 billion plantation. Any thoughts on that? I'll request you to introduce yourself also, a bit about you, about your organization, and the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you, CSR Box, for this opportunity to tell everybody about the work we do and enthuse more people to be part of the solution that we think could probably help keep the environment safe for human beings. The environment will continue with or without human beings. That's guaranteed. But how do we keep it good for us? To answer Rishi's question here, at one point in time, we used to publish the yellow pages. Fortunately, the print industry was taken over by Google, and we didn't have much chances to survive. And it was at that point in time that we, as an individual, as a family, we decided to get into this activity of putting back the trees that I had, directly or indirectly cut. The journey was very slow. 2012, when we started, there was nothing called CSR. There were, like in a Thai conference, Thai 2014 in ThaiCon 2014 in Calcutta, where we planted trees for every delegate who had come in. one of the past presidents of TIE from the US said that all startups are funded by friends, family, and fools. Fools who believe in your vision. So we did have a few friends and family and a fair amount of fools who thought that, yes, this is something that should be supported. The journey was slow, and we kind of reached, 1%. Being a bad student in college, so I didn't expect much more than that. So I got about 1% mark in my first year's target. Slowly, CSR came into play. Then we started working with international philanthropies, some carbon agencies. And as on date, we have planted close to 60 million. That's 6 crore trees, of which 3.5 crores is agroforestry trees with small and marginal farmers. And the others are mangroves that we have planted in the Sundarbans to help coastal communities, prevent erosion and maintain their livelihoods.
Thank you, Raj. I think that's a wonderful number. Although at a later point of our discussion, I'll come to the process also, how you have been able to do. Your thoughts on livelihood after we have grown trees? No. I said your thoughts and your experience of livelihood aspect once we have grown trees.
Oh, it's tremendous, not just for people, but also for the ecosystems around us, especially for bees, because a lot of the work that we do in Gujarat, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh is actually training small farmers in beekeeping. So should I continue?
Yeah, please. That's the reason I started that.
Okay, so just to quickly pull back, those of us who had lunch, I know Rishi has still not had lunch, so the rest of us who had lunch today, almost all the food that you ate, which is the pulses, the dal, the vegetables, all depends on bees. If there were no bees, all of that would not be on your plate. So it's only cereals, which is wheat and rice and then mushrooms, which come to us without pollination. So that's how critical bees are for our food systems, for the clothes that we wear. Cotton requires pollination, teak requires pollination again. If you notice, until now I haven't mentioned the word honey at all, because the most important work that bees do is pollination. And pollination is important for biodiversity, for food systems. So what we at Under the Mango Tree Society do is to train farmers, small farmers in Adivasi communities across Gujarat, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. We train them in beekeeping with indigenous bees. So when we first started working, which was in 2009-10, and we went to different organizations, including government and corporate organizations, and said, we want to teach farmers beekeeping to help agricultural yields. People laughed at us. So they said, this is a typical Jholawala speak, where's the evidence? So then in 2016, the FAO actually put out a policy statement which said that bees and pollination services are as important an agricultural input for small farmers especially as water, soil, etc. So that's how much the dialogue had moved. And in this previous session, I was actually really heartened to see speakers talking about pollination services as ecosystem services, bees. So for small farmers, especially for climate change, to tackle climate change and build resilience, beekeeping is a great nature-based solution. And that's what we do at Under the Mango Tree Society.
I think that's wonderful, because under the mango tree, whenever we have thought about, it's only about the honey. But this was a beautiful perspective, and we all know and understand and appreciate the importance of pollination. Charu, I'll come to you. Because पेड़ लगा लिया, पानी का क्या करें? So why don't you just share the work that Dholakya Foundation is doing, and I would especially request you to talk about 10, 20, 30 and the aspirational project around Saraswati that you all are taking, River Saraswati. Over to you, Charu.
So I'll start with 10, 20, 30 first.
Yeah.
So sir, we wanted to keep the idea very simple, because nature is very simple. It's us who try to complicate it with, many this and that's, but it is very simple that पेड़ लगाओ and then try to work around that. So with the work of water that we have done, so our area of work is limited as of now, because I won't say that we are working in 10 different states. No, we are working in one state, but the work that we have done in one state is commendable, that I would say. Because those who were here yesterday must have heard our founder Sabji Dholakia, that his emotions towards his work is clearly visible when he is talking about it. So I'll just stand on that and say that when water was the concern, we started working towards water conservation. Slowly and gradually, we have seen that because of the water conservation, the land, the agricultural land has started getting better. And that's how the idea of Mission 10-20-30 came up, that why not, if the land or the soil is good for plantation, we should go towards afforestation. So that's how the idea of Mission 10-20-30 came up. So it simply means that we want to plant 10 million trees till 2030, which is the SDG deadline as well. So that's how we have created it in that timeline, that if there is no timeline, there is no pressure on us to, achieve such big target for us at least. So that's how 10-20-30 came up. And we are still working on that. So far, in 2024, as of now we are speaking, we have planted more than 32 million trees as of now. And then we are hoping to finish the target that we have for us is 10 million. We are hopefully completed before the deadline that we have. Coming to the Saraswati River, so while we were working on Gagadia River, which I don't know, many of you must not knowing about it, because it was the dead river in Amreli district since more than 40 years. So because Amreli is our founder's village or district from where he belongs, so he started working on Gagadia, and slowly when Gagadia River was quite alive and the water was there, from some discussion from the government point of view, it came to us that if you can do this, which was, the dead river since more than 40 years, why not Saraswati? Because in India, river is not just the, some water specific thing. It has more towards religious, emotional value to it. So we see water as not only some asset, but also as a point wherein we call it Ma, Ganga Ma, Saraswati Ma. So it has that level of understanding in India. So why not to work towards Saraswati? And that's how we started working on Saraswati. And still, it is ongoing. It's 1 kilometer river that we have revived so far. It's a long river. We are, long way to go. But yes, we started working on Saraswati, and we have seen the difference from what we have started working on and what it is now. So with Saraswati, it was not the case that water was not there. It was there, but it was moving, flowing beneath the land. So that's how different river has different understanding to it. We just have to figure out what needs to be done for that particular river, and we have to make it easy, because it should be in a way that other people can also do the same thing. We don't have to make it that much complicated that it cannot be replicated. So we are keeping it simple in our way, and that's how it is working for us, and I hope it will work for many other people too. Yeah.
I think I really understand and appreciate that perspective. Even if it's Saraswati River is 1 kilometer, because even in our earlier panel, I think the whole thought process is you need to have a broader vision first. You may have one particular thing that you can pick up and then implement based on resources, timeline, and other things. Thanks for that perspective, Charu. Jaideep, you are a technocrat by education. You are a technocrat by profession also. So how would you present the wonderful work that you are doing in the Himalayan area from a technology perspective? And also in our discussion, in earlier panel discussion, there was a thought process that technology cannot be an end. It can be at best a means, and it can change also. So if you can just touch around that part from your work and with your experience, it will be good.
Sure. I think before I touch upon that, I just want to address the room, and I want each and every one of you to just give a big round of applause to yourself. Can you please do that? We can be a bit louder. You're doing it for yourself. And the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because, yes, there are a lot of challenges out there. Yes, the planet is facing a lot of issues. Yes, we are facing global warming. Yes, there is poverty in India. there are a lot of challenges, but what makes you stand out is the fact that you have committed to doing something about it. And that's very appreciable. Each and every one of you sitting in this room has decided that I, as an individual, can influence my society, my communities, my organization to make a tangible change in the way we are operating in and around our communities, whether it's in India, whether impact could be local, impact could be global. And so for that, thank you to each and every one of you. And that's what we need. As a society, we need that paradigm shift. And all of these things, whether it's technology, whether it's resources, whether it's financing, these are all tools that can enable us to make that shift in order to achieve a brighter future for our future generations. Because, you know, as it has been always said, there is only one earth and it will continue to live beyond all of us. So it's up to us as to how do we ensure that we make the best of our time and resources on this planet. And it is this very essence that if you are really passionate about something, can you do something about it instead of just talking about it or instead of just dreaming about it, is how I personally got started. Back 10 years back, you know, I come from IIT, the entire cohort that we had, all my batchmates, the dream was not to make an impact. The dream was to do the GMAT, go outside to US, do an MBA and get settled. That was the dream. The US dream, the US MBA dream, make money for the US. But I think along the line, by meeting some of the most amazing change makers in this society, some of the most passionate individuals like Mr. Anshu Gupta from Goonj and the others, you get to realize that, you know, what is really the essence of what you can do. Yes, you are privileged. We all come from a privileged background. But the idea is to not be ashamed of that privilege, but how can you do something about it? And that's when we started 10 years back with the whole idea of leveraging technology. In our case, it was solar energy, to really bring a transformative change in the lives of the communities living in the remotest parts of India. And it's been 10 years now, from electrifying villages to health, education, livelihood, and even now afforestation. So we are working across the entire spectrum of these projects, across the border areas. And the motto is very simple for us. Where the road stops, that's where our work begins. Because frankly, where the road stops, that's where development stops. But a lot of India is still living at the end of those roads, where there is still a lot of development that needs to be done. And what we have seen is technology can be a great enabler. Now you have villages in these remote parts of India that are able to produce and consume their own electricity with solar power, whereas all of us here are relying on a big grid infrastructure. So they are more advanced technically in terms of energy. They are using LED lights. So if you look at the whole energy spectrum, technology is able to put these people who have no access to resources at a much advanced level than all of us. And that's the beauty of technology. You look at any project, any one of us, all of us on this panel here right now, and all of you sitting in the audience, tell me one thing that you do that does not involve a piece of technology. Yes, the communities will always be there. The heart-to-heart, the emotions will always be there, but there will always be an enabler. And that's where I feel technology can be a great democratization tool to bring everyone at par. And only then we'll be able to achieve the SDG goals. By 2030, frankly, let's be realistic, we won't be able to achieve them. But then still, can we create a world that is more equitable for all of us? Absolutely, yes. You have seen the power of AI. You have seen the power of, there's a lot of stalls out there. Every one of them is using technology at the end of the day. And I think it's about using the technology in the right manner to really ensure that we are making a tangible shift in the lives of the communities that we all want to impact.
That was very powerful, Jaideep. Thank you so much. I think he really deserves a round of applause for that. Thanks, Jaideep. In fact, that brings me to one more question that I've kept for you at a later point of time, but I really want to touch it now. That is, with your experience, Jaideep, do you think there's an importance of scale when you work on this kind of a work? Scale, yeah.
Scale, the beauty about India is you open your eyes, if you can, you look around, you'll always find a problem. But you know what's the beauty about finding a problem? Is it always comes in a pair. And what is that pair? The solution. They are like a couple. Yeah. You'll find a problem, you'll always find a solution. And if you are able to find a solution, and it's not about parachuting into a community. All of us in the development sector, we understand you just can't go into a community or a village or anyone's home and say, I assume that this is your problem and this is the solution. Does it work? No. It never works. All of us know it is about, and it's been said on multiple panels, stakeholder meetings, understanding the community, बैठक करो उनके साथ, गाँव वालों को समझो कि ज़रूरत क्या है, गाँव वालों छोड़ो यार. If someone comes and gives you something here right now, will you accept it? No, you won't, unless the buy-in is created. And once the buy-in is there, once the technology is there, once the financing is available, then scale is not an issue in India. Outside Europe and all, they are, 1 million lives impacted is a very big scale for them. 1 million is nothing in India. We are talking about crores of people. We are talking 1.3 plus billion people. And 1 million is just a drop in the ocean. So scale can definitely be achieved, provided the right intent is there, the right mindset, the right approach is being followed. And you look at Rajmohan sir, look at like 6 crore is not a small number. That's a huge number. And in what, just 10 years? Yeah, in just 10, 12 years. So, the scale, if you have the right intent, the financing, a lot of us complain, there is no financing in the, CSR sector. You have to, every session you see, people are giving out cards, taking cards, some of them are being thrown or whatever. But, the reality is, yes, it's a problem, but if you have, and I and Swapan were discussing, if you have the right solution, people will come to you, you won't have to chase people.
I think the point that I was trying to bring in, Jaideep, was a scale of operation you start with to have a kind of a critical mass. And that's where I'll come in, Raj. Maybe I'll come back to you, Jaideep, again. Raj, and then maybe to you also. Was that important, or is it important when you work on a theme like water, pollination, afforestation? Is scale important?
Well, when we started, scale was not really something that we thought of. It was just a question of trying to find an opportunity and plant one more tree. So that's how it started. And like I told you at the time, there was no CSR. Climate change was something that was, discussed, but probably a small paragraph in a newspaper. Or, it only started happening just pre-COVID and post-COVID. That biodiversity loss, climate change, carbon credits, and things like that, that became a major talking point. And the inflection point in any startup, whether it is putting solar panels in the Himalayas or rearing bees or starting like Charu said, a kilometer, there's always that point where inflection happens and you really scale. But you need to, and that's 5-10 year period, or maybe smaller periods. For us, it was about 7 years, where we learned the ropes, the rules of the game, where we understood what could be done, what couldn't be done. We are still learning. But then we, like the earlier panel ITC person said, we could create certain templates. Those templates can help scale. And now we have a fairly large team. And again, coming back to the point that, this discussion happened earlier also, and Jaideep and you mentioned, 6 crores. 6 crores is, and it looks like a humongous number. But when we look at the scale of the problem, we probably touched about 1%, maybe 0.5% of the number of trees that we need to create an equitable society. Probably, I think there was somebody else who mentioned that, I think it was Pratyush, probably that will be 20% of the carbon emissions that we need to target and absorb. So, the scale is humongous. So, individual organizations cannot do it. We'll need to all get into collectives. Yeah.
In fact, I was trying to just build on that part only. The landscape of issues that we have and the way we have to handle, I think it's very important to have that kind of a scale also. You can't be having just a small model working here and there and then just communicating about that. You really need to have scale. And that's where I'll come in, Sujna, to you again. If you can build on the scale part and how you have leverage on the convergence and the partnership around that.
Yeah, actually that's very important because my own position on this has moved, I think, over the last, since we began work. And I was reading something this morning, I think it was attributed to Barack Obama, who said that we are the first generation that faces climate change and also the last generation which can do something about it. And that's very true. That suddenly, so when we at Under the Mango Tree Society started working with small farmers and bees, for us it was about proving the concept because it was so new. But over the last 5 to 6 years, we've realized that so much needs to be done around it that unless you build these partnerships and collaborations, you can't really move forward at the level that you want to. And for us, I think we've been very fortunate and privileged that we've had the benefit of corporates. For example, last night we won the Doing Good for Bharat Awards, and that was for a project supported by HCL Foundation. We've also had the benefit of a number of corporates who've suddenly realized that doing this kind of work pays corporate dividends, like Pratyusha also pointed out earlier. So some of the corporates that we work with, for example, First Abu Dhabi Bank, DCB Bank, so how did they come to us? We didn't know them from Adam or Eve. It's just the work that speaks for you. And that's where building these, especially building the corporate partnerships, is very important to get the attention of government at some level. Because that's when your work starts speaking for you. And that is where I feel that a lot of us in this space need to build these silos. Like Charu and I were speaking, even within NGOs, we probably need to build these collaborations. So I think we are at that inflection point, and we need to probably build on this going forward.
I think that's very important, and whether you work on a very small geography or a bigger geography, this is something that you have to always keep in mind. I'll come back to you again, Charu, because I think I heard Mr. Dholakia talking about me doing on my own. As of now, I have not thought about partnership, so I'll not touch that part with you. But what I'd like to definitely touch with you is when you do a kind of a work that Dholakia Foundation has done, the scale of lakes, what is the importance of having processes in place, one, and second, what is the institutional mechanism that you all have framed to ensure that the work continuity happens on a very regular basis? And Jaideep, I would request you also to touch upon this part. Yeah.
It is very important because yesterday when Kaka said that we have not undertook any partnership so far, so that was for Gagadia River. So the work that we have done on Gagadia, that made us work with government for Saraswati. So it is never possible that on a large scale we could do it all by ourselves. It's not possible. So even when we talk about Mission River or Mission 10, 20, 30, in 2024 we realized that partnership is important. Why? Because we want to finish such target that we cannot finish by ourselves. We need to have people in place. We need to have different sorts of partnership. It could be knowledge partner, it could be funding partner, it could be asset partner. It could be anything, but partnership is important because the sort of work that we are doing needs a lot of approval, needs a lot of paperwork from the government. And if that is not there, we fail to achieve such big targets. So yes, of course, we have not worked with anyone else right now, but it doesn't mean that we don't want to build on our partners, or maybe because these are the platforms where we get to know what other people are doing on the same projects, whether it's in some small scale or maybe 10 different states. As I said, we are only on one state, but it's not that we don't want to expand. And for expansion, you need government, you need other NGOs, as ma'am said, that we were speaking about having such collaborations, which plays a great role in achieving your target more before the deadline that you have set for yourself.
And also you really need to focus on the process part also. The whole, how do you really want to execute that? Because it's not a one-timer that you really want to do, but it's a n number of things that you want to do. So you really need to focus. So if you can touch that part, and maybe then Jaideep, if you can also touch on that part.
So there is
just a second. My request to the person out there is if you can just keep quiet or discuss little slow, it will be helpful for us. Please. Yeah, please.
Thank you for stating that. I wanted to say this, but okay. So speaking about the processes, yes, it is important to have your checklist. Number one, that what is the process that you are following for any of the missions? And I'm not saying only for what we are doing. Like anything that we are doing, there has to be the set process. For next site, it could be little bit here and there, but at least there has to be some process that you know that one would be this process, and then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and what should be done in order to complete that point of the task that you have in your list. So yes, it took us a lot of time to figure out the processes because we were not partnering with anyone, so we don't have any knowledge partner who have all, because there are people who are into water sector since 10-15 years who could help us in making the processes streamlined. But yes, because we did it by ourselves, so it took us little longer than usual to figure out what is working for Gagadia, and same for Saraswati and then Kalwa and Vishwabitri now. So yes, little bit here and there, but it took us 2017 to 23 to still, figuring out how much should be the depth, because we are learning as we are working. So now we think that if we want to achieve the target, it is important to have some sort of partnerships in any manner possible right now to achieve what we are thinking to achieve in certain time frame. So yes, we have worked upon it, we are still learning on it, and we are still, getting in processes of taking the advice from government, from some international organization, from, organizations from India who are there in the sector since long. So we understood little late, but at least we understood that this is the requirement, and we have actively started acting upon it. So that's what we are working upon.
Thanks, Saru. Thanks. Jaideep, your views?
So I think I firmly believe that in crisis, there is no competition, there's only collaboration. And what we have seen is the Indian bureaucracy, the Indian IS officers that we have had the chance to work with are some of the finest people that I've come across. For example, in states like Meghalaya, now we have upgraded health centers. I'm giving you a very practical example of how sustainability sort of comes into place. Now you upgrade a health center, primary health center with solar power, you give medical equipments funded through CSR. All good, tali bajgi, ho gaya, inauguration ho gaya. What happens 3 months down the line when the inverter goes bad? Technology, it can go bad. Or what happens if a baby warmer stops working because the heater goes bad? What do you do then? Now, any CSR partner or any if I'm implementing the project, we just can't keep putting on funds year on year to ensure that the health center is maintained. So what we did was we contacted the administration. We told them, now we have set up these health centers. How can we maintain them? So each health center has their own DC fund. 1 lakh rupees is given to every primary health center, which the hospital, the primary health center doctor has the full supervision of. From that, it was earmarked, 20% of the funds will be allocated to the maintenance. And immediately now there's a sustainability mechanism. So we now have people that we have trained locally from the local tribal community who are now trained solar engineers. 6th, 7th fail people are now much more expert at any electrical equipment and any solar installations. And they are the ones who are going and doing the repair maintenance. They are earning money while they are doing this repair maintenance, whenever such a chance happens. So technology can always go bad, but if you don't have these sustainability mechanisms in place, or for example, afforestation, you might plant a tree, but if you forgot to find out who's going to water the plant for the first 2 to 3 years to ensure the plant is nurtured, वो ताली बच जाएगी, Instagram, Facebook पे, LinkedIn पे photo आ जाएगी, but 1 year down the line, there'll be nothing on the ground. So you have to ensure sustainability through and through, and that can only be achieved through A, community buy-in, B, capacity development of the local communities. That is true for any of the projects that we are doing, and C, ensuring there are good monitoring and evaluation mechanisms in each of the work that we do. Only then can you see that whatever we are talking here, when we go on the ground, we see the actual result on the ground. Otherwise, this is all just fake.
I think I fully appreciate that viewpoint, because when we started afforestation in UPL under our project Vasudha, and my colleague who got recognized yesterday, they are also here. I think it was important for us to make some kind of an SOP, whether it's first is a fencing, whether you need a water security, and whether it's an individual species that you really want to grow in. So it's very important to have that kind of a vision right at the beginning. I think I'll come back to you, Raj, again on the institutional mechanism, apart from the processes and the partnership which Charu and Jaideep has focused. When you talk about 6 crore, you really need to have an institutional mechanism. How have you handled this part?
See, having worked or run a fairly large organization kind of helped institutionalize some of the pain points that come while you're driving a new project. To give you a small example, and taking from Jaideep's point here, in some of the parts in eastern UP, where where the road doesn't end, there is a transformer, there is electricity, but it is pretty infrequent that there is power in those villages. So early on, we'll be working on this. We would go and ask the farmers a question ki bijli hai yahan pe? Because we have to, when you're planting large scale, 30,000, 40,000, 100,000 trees, you need some kind of a watering mechanism, right? So the village would, the pradhan there would say, haan, bijli hai. And much later we realized we didn't ask, कितने घंटे आती है और कितने दिन आती है. So बिजली तो है, but there was no consistency there. So then we had to set up solar panels in a lot of these villages. And then the next step, what we realized, coming to Charu's point of learning from the mistakes or learning from experience, was that a lot of these are indigenous tribal villages. And land availability, land holding is very large, 500 hectares, 100 hectares, 80 hectares per family. But most of the people are migrants. They are working in nearby towns and villages. So there's nobody there to take care of the plants. So we had to lay extensive irrigation lines. Right, again, taking Jaideep's point, there was nobody coming in and saying, okay, you're incurring an extra cost, we're going to fund you for that. So it all had to be generated, SOPs created, and each area, each terrain has different issues. Some are people issues, some are people who have land but they don't want to take care of it. Some are people who, when we start helping them with intercropping, creating vegetables or oil seeds and stuff like that, they really jump into the opportunity. There are stories of people who have called their migrant husbands back into the village because now they see that they can create sustainable livelihoods right within, without having to live in slums in Hyderabad or Bombay or Delhi. So those kind of things.
Thanks, Raj. Thanks. Sujna, maybe this is the last part of my discussion. How would you like to present the process of achieving the outcome that you have done, the process part of it? It's very important to have that process in place.
Yeah. So before I come to that, just to add on to the earlier point, this is where I think innovation is very important. Yeah. So to take from our own example, we realized that why were government beekeeping programs failing? Primarily because there was no hand-holding happening at the field level. Yeah. And beekeeping is a very seasonal activity. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things that we did, which relates to process, was to create a local cadre of master trainers who are beekeeping technicians who can actually handhold the community in beekeeping, and also provide training in the local language. So this meant that a number of women could also be trained in beekeeping. So when we say process, I think it's to understand the gaps in the existing format where they are, and also to use innovation to plug these gaps and listen to the community. Another example from our work, because we work with Adivasi communities where honey hunting practices were very common. Because generationally people are very familiar with bees, but what they did not know is that these bees can be kept in boxes. So awareness building in the community to move them away from unsustainable honey hunting. So I would say these are all listening to the community, understanding their practices. So these are all very important parts of the process that we need to ingrain if we really want to move forward with something new and innovative.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I think on that note, we are coming to an end to our discussion, but the way I would like to present final thought is we are really looking at a world where maybe Charu creates a water structure, and then Mr. Raj takes over to do a bit of a forestation, ensuring that he works with Sujna on the species which can give a cross-pollination and bees out there. Finally coming to Jaideep to ensure that there's a sustainable renewable energy for irrigation and all other things that we want to do. And as a corporate, we are there to support the whole process. So that's something that we really should have a vision that this is the way forward us if we really want to take care of nature. Thank you so much, everyone. But we have 5 minutes with us, 5 to 7 minutes. How many time is with us, organizer? Can we take 5, 7 questions, 4, 5 questions? Yeah, it should not be restricted to question if you have a suggestion, because this is not a topic where we are sitting with a lot of wisdom, but I think we are happy to take any guidance, any suggestion, any question with anyone. First of all, thank you everyone for being here post-lunch
Thank you.
session. We were not expecting this kind of a crowd, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sujit and I represent an organization called One Stage from Pratyush's team. We have a program called PANI, Providing and Augmenting Nature-Based Intervention, and I was looking at that. And I want to emphasize something, you talked about collaboration. 2 years back, Gurgaon, that the area, the city has overdrawn the water and the rural side of Gurgaon.
Sir, may I request you to be specific in the interest of time,
Yes,
please?
yes. So we started working on one pond there, community pond we recharge. Then we took that concept, because we have a community model, we took that concept, how we empowered the community, CRPs and all that. We took that to AVPN in Mumbai, we presented that model. And with that, Niti Aayog, under the Windows 2 grant, gave us a project of 201 ponds in Jharkhand, 3 districts. That's the scale I'm talking about. And one corporate, Amit Chandra's foundation, they came forward to support us. And that is how the government of Jharkhand, Ministry of Agriculture and Soil Conservation understood the model, because through Niti Aayog, it was getting directly monitored through an app called Avni app. There is a direct monitoring mechanism. We pioneered and then we went on that. Now the ministry is asking us to do in the entire of Jharkhand, 3,000 ponds. That's the scale. When I agree with the point, one is collaboration, one is good models, one is community-based interventions when you do, because they are the people who are there to sustain and maintain the efforts that we do. So there will be scale, there will be collaboration, and there will be good results. I just wanted to
Thanks for your validation of our discussion around scaling up the partnership as well as the convergence part. Any other question? Yeah, please, ma'am.
Yes. So my question is, since ma'am spoke about proving something new, so when we have a new concept rather than just more usual social concepts that people are doing as a new NGO, and we start something fresh as a concept, bringing more sustainable innovations and enabling innovations through corporates and scaling it up through corporates, enabling the innovation through students and scaling through corporates, sort of a model which is pretty new. And when you want to prove it, you don't have the funds to kind of start off. But when you don't have the funds and then people want you to still prove it, then only they'll go forward. So it's kind of a circular loop. So can you give me some advice on that? It will be really helpful.
Maybe you both have handled that, so.
Yeah, I will take that question. A journey of 1,000 miles always starts with a single step. So there are going to be people who will tell you that it is going to fly, people who will say this is not going to fly. But if you are focused and you're open, because there's never one single solution to a problem. There are going to be multiple solutions, one of, or many of which would be most apt for a particular situation. So you'll have to toy around and work on it. And just to add to that, one of the reasons why we were able to scale is that we do pilots with anybody and everybody and anybody who comes and says, we want to plant 100 trees, 1,000 trees, 10,000 trees. Could you help? So what we do is, if it is anywhere near our nurseries, we give them those saplings at no cost. If it's slightly further away from our nurseries, we say, will you be able to bear transportation cost? And that's how we kind of develop partners. There's some partners who are going to be very good. Some partners, okay, they'll take the trees, they'll probably, saplings, they'll probably plant some of them won't get planted. But we have our internal mechanisms by which we try and understand who is a good potential partner, because that's the only way you can scale. So,
I think on that note, Raj will take a hard stop. Because I think every member of the organizing committee is standing now and staring at me कि भैया और कितना करके. So I'll not take much time here. Thank you so much, everyone, and for this lovely discussion, and thanks to the audience also. Ma'am, we'll take the discussion outside. And also my request to someone in the audience is, if you really want to interact with any of the panel member, we'll go outside. We just want to ensure that the session doesn't get disturbed here in this place. So my request is we all will come out. If you really want, we'll have a discussion. Over to you. Thank you so much.